In this video, we are going to understand about dynamic import. So dynamic module import is a method where the modules which we are loading, that is loaded in a lazy load fashion, which means that they are only loaded when they are needed. Okay, so the modules are dynamically loaded as and when in the code actually that is required. So you understand that in the last case, let's say this some module is there and then you are importing that module, right? So let's say import something from a particular module, so let's say foo.js, that is fine. But now you see that this thing is statically written at the top. Whatever I don't know whether it is used, not used, whether this is always used. So for example, let's say if some condition is true, then only this thing is used. This might be right, but then also so let's say I don't know, like for right now just have any condition. But even if this thing is not used, so let's say my x is let's say some variable p is there, right? And if p is less than 10, then only it is used, right? And let's say p is equal to 20. Okay, then I know that p less than 10 will be false, right? So this x variable will be no more used, but still this thing will be imported. So you can understand that there is no way to dynamically load this in this fashion. Okay, so right now if you see that, let's do npm start. Sorry, I have to do npm start here. Yeah, so then we'll see that yeah, so requested module footer does not provide named export x. So let's see named export x is there or not. So yeah, foo is there, so let's use foo only, that is fine. So let's use this foo. Okay, and now you see that yeah, I used it and I did not I imported it, but I actually did not use it anywhere, right? So you can see that if let's say this p is 2, then it will be used and it will be printed, right? But if p is 20, then this is not going to be used, but still this module is loaded. You can clearly see in network tab that you can see that this foo.js is loaded even if this is not actually used. Okay, because we just statically imported it at the top, and whatever is imported at the top and everything. So what we are trying to do is that how to load modules dynamically as and when they are needed. And this is also called lazy loading, which means that I'm lazy, I don't import everything. I'm lazy. Whenever it is required, then only I go and do that thing, which means that I go and import that thing. This mechanism is called lazy loading, just a term. But for that, JavaScript provides one another way called import function. So you can understand this is an import statement, not a function. It's just an import statement. But there is something called import function. Okay, and that import function, in that import function, you pass this path name as the argument of that import function. Okay, and then that will return a promise. So essentially, I'm saying something like this, that you import and in that you pass a particular path, whatever you want to. So earlier we were doing something like this, now we are not going to do something like this. What we are going to do is that we will take this path and then we are going to use import function rather than import statement. So this is the way, right? And then if you want to see that what is for right now, let's just comment this thing. Firstly, let's see what does it return. So let's say const I don't know, q is equal to this thing, right? Now let's try to print this q. What is this q? So let's see, just one moment. Yeah, so we have to put the condition. So let's say 2. Now you can see that so let's see that firstly, that now if p was 20, then that is not used. Obviously it is not going inside if statement, and you can see that foo is not called also. Foo is not called also. But if p is 2, for example, and then it is going inside, then only it is called. So you can see that now foo is called. But what is printed? It is printing some promise, which means that this q thing is a promise. Okay, so essentially this q thing is a promise, which means that I can do something like q dot then okay. And inside that, what this is saying is that inside that the promise which returns, it fulfills with a module object, which means that when this is resolved, then inside then the variable which you are going, that is essentially the module object. Okay, so module object. So yeah, so let's see what is this module object. Let's now print this module object. Okay, so yeah, that is fine, but I'm getting this module object. Yeah, but what will I do with this module object? It turns out that inside that you can see that foo and default, everything is there, which means that this whole module is exported, is now we have got as a variable, and in that all the named exports are also there, and the default export is also there, you can see. And now we can use that, which means that the named export foo is there, the default export hello is there. We can see that all those things exist in this. So module dot foo, you see that you can print. Similarly, module dot default, you can print. Okay, and now you see that you are getting this 10 and hello, whatever is exported from here. Okay, so now you can understand that whenever this thing is not there, then this is not used at all. In network also, that is not used at all. And whenever we meet that condition, then only that thing is used also. That thing is you can see that it is fetched also, and it is now being used also. Okay, and this thing can be completely dynamic also, which means that let's say right now I am using some set timeout, right? And in this set timeout, let's say after 5 seconds only, I'm interested in loading that module. Okay, then you can very well do something like this. Right? And again, this new variable you don't need, you can directly do something like this also. So this is also fine. Okay, so now you can understand that I have so this is like dynamic import rather than using import statement. This is static import, and also using import statement. This is dynamic import using import function. And this is another syntax which is used for dynamically importing this, which means that I pass the full path or relative path or URL, whatever things are supported here, that can be supported here also, right? And then it returns a promise and the result, and then you can use catch and all. If you see that some error can be there, this might, if this is not there right now, I know that this is there, right? That's why nothing will be thrown. But if some error is there, then you can use like a normal promise, you can use dot catch or something, and then you can console error or something there. But the idea is that the resolved value will be module, and that module will represent the module object which is being imported, and in that everything whatever will be normal exported, default exported, that will be available here, right? But in this context, what we are doing is that we are doing that after 5 seconds, which means that you can clearly see that right now nothing is printed. I am seeing here, and after 5 seconds that thing will be called. Okay, and you can see that now it is called after 5 seconds, and now dynamically, lazily, when it is used, then this thing is fetched and then it is printed, which means that when the printing was required and when the module was fetched, that time dynamically it went. So now you can understand that your bundle size, the first time what it is loaded, right, that bundle size might significantly decrease if whatever you don't need, why to now wait for the first during the first render, why to delay your first render, right? So this thing can be used for that thing which is called lazy loading. So that is fine. We saw that in normal import we do something like this import statement, but in dynamic import we use this sort of function, and then and then again, the same thing what you are doing here, you can do anything. So let's say for example here we did like this thing, right? So here also you can do something like this, like foo is equal to module destructure sort of thing you can do, right? Okay, and then you can print, rather than module.foo, you can simply print foo. And at the same time, let's not delay 5-10 seconds, let's delay just 1 second. And at the same time, default also you can take, and let's say comma default, and let's name it some variable bar, or let's say d means default variable. Okay, and then you can print this d, and now you will see that once I load this, then the named variable will be 10, the named variable which is foo, and the default export will be hello. Okay, so you can see that you can do something like this also. So rather than destructuring here, similar to that you are using here, so that's not a big deal, right? But this is a completely new paradigm, different way of using imports, right, which is a dynamic import. This is actually this syntax was introduced later, not in the earlier ES6, but later it was incorporated in the JavaScript ecosystem. Okay, now you see that this dynamic import, in summary, we can see that the module is dynamically loaded when it is required, not statically loaded every time. That is first thing, so it reduces our bundle size. Okay, next thing is that dynamic import can be called conditionally. We saw earlier, right, that the whole thing can be called conditionally. You can understand clearly that this was not the case in case of this import, right? This import you cannot call it conditionally, it will give you error, right? But something like this can be definitely put in any condition and it will not give you any error. You can see that it works perfectly fine. Okay, so this thing, dynamic import, works inside conditionals also. And last but not the least, dynamic import does not require scripts of type module. You can see, if you observe, then till now we are using this type module, but actually this is not needed. This is not needed. So let's show you. We earlier saw, so let's remove this conditional, just use this thing for now. And we earlier saw that if we wanted to print something like here using direct import, right, direct import, then we know that this type module is needed, right? If I remove this type module, then I'll get error, right? I'll get error, right? And that's why this type module was needed. But the thing is that for dynamic import, if you remove this, for dynamic import, even if type module is there, then it is running fine, right? But even if you remove this type module, okay, you can see that then also it's running fine. You can see that then also it is running fine, which means the type module is not needed in case of dynamic import. So this works perfectly fine. But if you use features of something which is indirectly available as a result of module thing, so for example, let's say you need strict mode throughout, and that's why you want to this make this file as a module, then you can definitely make this here type module, right? One another thing is there, that let's say you are using this syntax, then definitely without type module it works, because that does not require. But let's say rather than this, you are using this feature, let's say const module, something like this. Rather than creating a promise, you just directly do await. Let's say you are doing something like this. Now you know that top level await is only available inside async functions or modules. Now I see that I am not using type module, which means that index.js will not be treated as module, and that's why this will not have top level await, because this is not a module, and that's why you will see that this is giving an error, right? So either I have to use an IIFE, and in that I will create a async function. That is one way. So you can see that it is working fine, because now it is async inside this await is inside async function. But the top level thing will not work, because this is not a module. But the second way is that I can make this a module. So even if for import, for dynamic import, type module was not needed, but for using top level await, I still want to make it, let's say, type module. And once I do that, then this will be a module, which means that top level await will be available, and now this is running perfectly, right? So yeah, now you can understand that as and when you need whatever the features you require, based on that you can make it type module or something. But the simple idea is that For dynamic import specifically, only for this thing, you don't compulsorily need type module or something, unlike static import, which we saw earlier. Okay, so that will be all for dynamic import. In the next video, we are going to start some new topic. I believe we are going to start classes in JavaScript.